Oh, that was a terrible slap. I'm gonna do it again. Oh, what up, YouTube? I'm your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with just one more conversation.
Yeah.
Kelley is back yet again. Actually, she never left.
Never left.
We were sitting over here having just a honest and authentic conversation, and I was just like, damn, like we should return on the camera and try to run some of this information back. So I guess to give like a little bit more information and depth, I think it's important to tell folks kind of like how we met. So I get into that. So a couple of months ago, I met you at a party.
Yes.
And we talked for like, wasn't a long time.
It wasn't
a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Exchanged numbers.
Yep.
Had a couple of conversations through text or what have you, and then hadn't really talked until a week or two ago.
Right.
And you saw one of the videos that I was doing and was like, you know, or did you? Or did I was just like, yo, it'd be good if we just talk?
No, I said you inspired me to restart my YouTube channel because I have plug. Let's talk about it. Kelley Michelle is my YouTube channel.
Plug.
Just putting it out there. And so I just like reached out to you and was like, hey, I just saw your video and you know, you inspired me to want to start doing videos again. And that's how the conversation resumed.
And then we just started talking about how the conversation, why did it cease?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why did it cease? And I think that this is a conversation. Come in the camera a little more. I think this is a conversation where I think is like, it's like dope to have to kind of highlight these different things.
Yeah.
So do you want me to try to explain it?
Yeah. Go for it. I'll chime in.
So here's kind of what happened. I think that having a couple of text conversations with Kelley, I immediately identified that she is a relationship person. You could tell, I could just tell by your word choice, like you trying to find like one of these eventually. That is one of your goals.
Absolutely,
of being able to do that. So I recognized that early, and what I said to myself is, well, I'm not going to, you know, being someone who's pretty busy, and I have all of this, you know, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Do I want to spend time in getting to know someone that I know has a different goal in mind than me?
Yeah.
Because my goal right now is to not get into a relationship. I have other things on my plate that I'm trying to accomplish before I consider kind of more long-term things.
Sure.
Did I paint that picture?
Yeah, you painted very accurately. Yes.
Okay. So how did that make you feel when I'm detailing kind of how our goals were not aligned?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the point of what I said in like the previous video, that I'm a person that wants to be pursued. So if I don't see that pursuit, then I know where that person is at. So I am like, okay, well, based upon your actions, I know that there wasn't a level of great interest, or we weren't aligned as in our goals or where we were in life. So therefore, you know, I fell back. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna, you know, put myself in a position to be hurt or just maintain something when I know that that person's body language, well, not body language because we weren't like, you know, like, but just their actions are saying to me, this is not what I'm looking for right now. So,
and the actions was kind of like I wasn't like reaching out, and you know, so then.
And you didn't like initiate, like you weren't like, hey, let's go do anything, or let's go, and it was just like, okay. So I was like, okay, well, I'll fall back. That's fine. Met a nice person, and that's what it is.
Yeah, and I think that you know, for me, it's again, I think it comes down to you know, where do I want to put my time at, and I think that it's you know, there's some dudes who would act like they want a relationship, and you know, and I just don't do that. Like I don't lead people on in a sense of like acting as if I'm okay with the relationship in order to get one thing from you, because like it's not top of mind for me, and I feel like it's better, or there's karma is more on your side, because there's women, there's savage chicks out there, right? Like, there's chicks out there that are looking for exactly the things that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I've never been in the mind of like leading someone on in a sense of having to lie about what I want out of the situation in order to get sexual attention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But so the thing is like, I'm vindicated. if I make it clear that, like, you know, this is not where I'm going with it, but you still want to come over? Like,
sure.
I'm vindicated, you know, because you were making that decision.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
Exactly.
You can't be mad at me for something that you are not accomplished in that you didn't accomplish to do, which is to change kind of my views in that for that particular topic. So
then that's like on the woman then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we also kind of talked about we also kind of talked about what. So you have an idea of like what a relationship and marriage is, and it's an idea that you've been pursuing for, you know, since you could pursue marriage or a relationship, right? I think.
Well, I have more of a blueprint of how
it's supposed to go.
How it's supposed to go, and
so
that's just
explain
basically
that.
Yeah. So basically, it was the blueprint is based on how I grew up, and also my background is a church background, a Christian background, raised in the church, still very active and involved in the church, but the blueprint was my parents. They were college sweethearts. Got married right after college, 23 years old. My sister, her husband, we've actually known their family our entire lives, but they were like kind of high school sweethearts, and then dated all through college, got married right after college. So that was kind of like the blueprint of not only what I saw, but at the church I attended at the time, it was like you only date if you feel that person is probably your wife. And the end result would be you marry them. And so, you know, I had an experience where, you know, I was going to get married about 10 years ago because the gentleman was following that blueprint, but then he, you know, decided no, that wasn't, you know, what he wanted. So growing up that way, where this is what you're taught, when you see things differently, and when you see, as far as my parents were, a level of success with my sister, then, you know, I began to think, oh, you know, this is how it should go.
I think that this is, it's a good conversation to talk about kind of the blueprint that was laid out for you, because you say blueprint, and I think of the Matrix, right? Like, like, you know, there's we're fed information that is structuring how we think about things.
Absolutely.
So I think that, you know, the power of being able to step outside of your situation, outside of what your parents are saying, outside of what the society is telling you to do, and say, is this something that I really want to do for me?
Right.
And I sound like, you know, irrespective of the relationship of the dude who you almost married, it sounded like he got to a certain point, he was like, wait a minute. Yeah. Is this what really I want to do for me? Does this make the most sense for me? So there's power in that, right? Like, and power in being able to, you know, step outside of what that matrix is and consider if it makes sense for you and your life, right?
Yeah, and I would say that I am out of the matrix myself.
Oh, you red pill? You red pill?
Yes, like, I mean, for the longest time, especially I think when, as far as my parents go and my sister's case, when you feel like they have such a level of success in it, then you feel like you want to stay in the matrix because it seems like that's the right way to do it.
But the question is, are they really? So what? So success? There's like an outward.
Exactly.
What is success?
What is success?
Because there's an outward success. It's like them keeping the blueprint in line, right? Like the blueprint was set. Okay, now you're between 40, 45 years old. Now you should have kids around this age, and they should have grades that look like this.
Right.
And you should live in a house this big, and you should have a dog as well as a cat. You know, like they keep. Yeah, I'm not a cat guy, but they keep that exterior polished and kept up to date. But then, like, I still think to myself, like, people who've lived in the Matrix, like, I still think, like, they wake up in the morning and they look at the person who they're gonna spend the rest of their life with, and they're just like, I hate you. But then they have family gatherings and they look like the goddamn Huxtables, you know what I'm saying? They look like that.
I mean, I don't think that there is a level of hate, but I do think that because they were in the Matrix for such a long time, the level of perception of other just understanding other views or appreciating other views or other ways of doing things, it's very limited. Like, they're very what's the word I'm thinking of? Just one-dimensional. I guess that's a good way to say it. They're just very one-dimensional, whereas I have learned to embrace, you know, diversity, exactly, and appreciate diversity.
Yeah.
Yep.
The diversity of thought, I think, is huge, right? Mm-hmm. Being you know, intentional about like, there's other perspectives out there.
Absolutely.
You know, like, even as we watch these AMS videos, like, the words, you laugh at the words, like, you don't take anything seriously, but what he's talking about is ridiculously different than what you consider in your own dating life.
Sure.
But you get it, and you understand it. I mean, to the effect of saying, you know, there's, you know, if your goal is to get the butt, there's nothing that he's saying that's not true. You know what I mean? And I know that's not your, like, again, like, in talking with you, I'm like, oh, she's a Midwestern cutie. Yeah. Right. I don't want to run through there and just destroy everything she knows and loves about men. You know what I mean? Let me step outside of this situation and let her live a fantastic life without my heathen ass walking through there.
But the thing is I recognized it, though. So
you did?
So I you know, I was able to pull back.
Oh, because of my level of interaction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if I wanted to be a sleazeball, you wouldn't have known what hit you.
Maybe so, but, you know, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. But I've had my level of sleazeballs, you know.
Have you?
I've had enough.
So you've had dudes that have lied to you about, or if you look back on a situation, they have lied to you about what they wanted. Sometimes they may not know either. Mm-hmm. Like, they may think that that's what they want, and they get to a certain point and they're like, and then it's just, they just don't know how to like break it off, or they feel comfortable in the situation. They still like the home cooked meals. They still like the attention, the validation, because dudes like a validation too. Let's keep it funky.
I mean, you live and you learn. So of course I wasn't perfect in being able, but as you're in the dating game and stuff, you learn different tricks. You learn, you know, how people are. So I've lived and learned.
You lived and learned.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you learned about those situations where, you know, that they you felt like they kind of lied to you? Like, what do you do now when you start interacting with dudes, whether or not they take you on dates, that's different than before, that make you less susceptible to being lied to? I
live in reality and not in what I would want it to be.
So you're more logic driven now.
Yes.
As opposed to
and also yes, I feel like you have to be, because your emotions can steer you the wrong way, and walking in the truth. Like, so, like, if they, by their actions or by their words, if they're really not into you, then accept it as truth versus creating. I feel like some females, we create fantasies. We're very good at creating fantasies or creating interpretations of what we want things to be. So by walking in truth, and, you know, that I think is how I act different.
women who are, you know, much more emotionally driven, they can sometimes create this image of what they expect the dude to be eventually. And there's some dudes that, you know, kind of wallow in that, like, oh, you think I'm gonna be all of that? And all right, well, sure. If you think I'm gonna be all that, in the meantime, I'm gonna get all of the sexual attention that I want from you in the meantime, that you consider me to be this thing for you in the future. You know what I mean? So all right. Anything else you want to talk on? I just felt like, so we turned back on the camera because we started chatting about it, like, well, yeah, what did happen? Like, I had to think about it for a second because it had been a couple of months.
I mean, it was December, so it's April now. I don't know when you're posting this, but it was December, so it's more than a couple of months.
I like not to be that specific in these videos.
Oh, okay.
Jesus,
So it was.
You know what I mean? Like, all right.
I mean, it was like 4 or 5 months. So it was a grip of time.
It was definitely a long time. But I don't know. I think it's good that we can get up and just chat about it. Like, what did happen? But I think that you respect kind of, you know, just being able to say, like your head was different than what my head was at the time.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you weren't a sleazeball or a slime ball or
I was
whatever.
busy. You know what I mean? You know, I was taking a look at my team and I was like, yeah, she can slide into the 7th. But however, like, you know, but that would only leave me like, I'm just... Anyway, listen. All right, so anything else to say before we kick off the video? Because I'm kind of hungry, I'm not going to lie to you. I
am too. So I think that's good.
All right. Well, listen, it's been your video. We gotta come back and do another one. You know what I mean?
There's so much to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. We gotta do topics and conversations outside of dating too as well. Like, you
absolutely.
know, I know you enjoy what you do for a living, so maybe like have a series on kind of, you know, different occupations.
Or I could just tell you and break down sports for you. Doesn't matter.
Are you into sports like that? See,
hey now.
Hey, give me a hey now. She's a Midwest cutie. Look at her. That's how they are over here. She's so delicate. You're like a little flower. They don't exist like you in New York, by the way. They're a lot more ferocious. They're a lot more ferocious.
Yeah, I'm a rare one, but that's good.
Are you unique? Are you a unicorn?
I'm unique, yes.
What makes you unique?
Oh goodness, that's like a topic of another video. We're gonna. He's like, will you please just answer the question?
Because I feel like a lot of people say that I mean, individually, everyone's unique.
Sure.
But what do you think separates you from women in general?
Probably, I think maybe like my background and my thought process has a level of separation.
You're very traditionalist.
Yes, I am.
You're very, I can tell.
Gosh, you're like very.
Yeah. Like, you're not out here listening to these Tatiana songs. You don't, your Instagram is not, there's no ass shot, like, in your Instagram. Like, she's completely covered, like, head to toe.
Stop.
Completely, like, I mean, even in our conversations, like, I'm not a huge church goer. Like, it's come up, like, 17 and a half times about,
Stop it.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
You're very traditionalist.
It came up as I was telling an example about my parents. That's why it came up in this conversation. What can I say?
All right. It's been your video. I am your host. Mediocre tutorials and reviews. Questions, comments, concerns. Leave it down in the description box down below. All right. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.